Welcome back to Rocky Mountain Marketing. I am so excited to bring you a new feature of Rocky Mountain Marketing. I am going to be sitting down with my business bestie, Kendra Swalls, once a month to bring you some of our insights to running our own businesses and some of the struggles that we've faced along the way.
Hey guys, your business besties are back here for another episode, and we are live sitting at the same table together in person.
Oh my goodness.
Podfest. I'm so excited. Welcome, my business bestie, Katie Brinkley.
I am so happy to be here with you, Kendra. I mean, we normally are doing these episodes through a video camera, and here we are sitting together at a podcasting event in real life, able to record a podcast. I'm so excited.
It's so fun. It's so funny to not see you through a screen and like you're literally right here beside me.
Yeah, now I can just eat right in front of you. I don't just need to eat something, So typically whenever we record these episodes, I somehow find some random thing to eat.
Bananas, pickles,
and
noodles.
And I guess it's just because I only feel comfortable eating in front of Kendra.
Always, your bestie. It's fun. You can, eat away. You're good. So, we're excited to get into this episode. We figured since we're here at Podfest and we're recording this podcast here live, you can probably hear the background. We're in the expo hall currently at the Lipson counter using their little setup here. And we thought we'd talk about like why podcasting is important. And if you're someone who is thinking about starting a podcast, or maybe you have started one and you're kind of on the fence of, do I keep going, do I not? Let's kind of break down like why, and poor Katie over here has got a sore throat.
I know. The thing is, it's not even sore. Yeah. It's from too much talking.
Yeah. So you're going to get the real, the raw, the coughs, the scratchiness, all the things today. So, this is the realness of podcasting.
Well, and the thing is, Kendra, you and I met on Clubhouse in a social audio room, a social audio platform, but we met in a room about podcasting. And for those of you that are regular listeners to the show, you know that I come from radio. I used to be a radio journalist. And with podcasting, it was something I always wanted to get back into. But I thought it seemed really hard. I didn't know where to start. And it's not.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is like, we're here at Podfest where there are hundreds, thousands of people here that are all podcasters. And it's funny when you walk around, you meet these people that you listen to in your earpods and you listen to, in your car or while you're working out, and you feel like you know them. And then to actually meet them in real life, it's so incredible. And the people I've met through podcasting, not only like Katie meeting you through Clubhouse and being on each other's podcasts, but also just the people I've had on my show that have been guests or people that I've been a guest on their show. These are people that live in places and do things that I would never have a connection to if it weren't for starting conversations with them and having a conversation on a show. So the connections that it has and the way that it brings people together, I think is really, really amazing.
Well, and there's something authentic about hearing someone speak. When you hear someone speak, it really moves the relationship along at lightning speed. And where I know that you have fully embraced Instagram Reels, you are the queen of Instagram Reels. For as much as I don't like Reels, Kendra's the queen of Reels. And so, but that's the thing is, in a world of, so much video and, beautifully curated posts and, these stage photos, podcasting's real.
Yeah.
You can hear the passion behind someone's voice. You can tell if someone's reading a page off of Google.
Yes.
Whereas with podcasting and social audio, these platforms, the voice has such an incredible power of moving relationships along, doing business faster than ever, and making relationships go from, hey, I heard you on a podcast, to all of a sudden, they're your closest friend. You're wandering around a conference together with them.
Well, and to be perfectly honest, we're sitting here right now recording this. I have Cindy on the other side of the screen taking video and photos. So she's a client of mine. I'm her business coach. We worked together for about 6 months now. And she found me by listening to me on a podcast as a guest, heard my name, went and listened to my podcast, and then reached out to me to work with me. So it's not just about meeting other creators and other podcasters. It's about meeting your ideal audience and connecting with your ideal audience. And we've heard that a lot here at Podfest, just about the communities that you create through this audio piece. And it's so powerful. So I want, for people listening, let's kind of give a couple of our sort of, if I was starting over again, tips of like, what would I want to know as a new podcaster?
The most important thing is it's not that hard to get started. I think that everyone thinks it's going to be super duper hard, and it's not. I mean, if you want to take it to that next level with your podcast, yeah, you're going to need to buy, a legit microphone. Yes, you're going to need to get more equipment. But really, if you have a pair of Apple, AirPods
yeah.
or like the microphone, that's all you need. That's all you need to get started. And if you don't have a GarageBand or whatever on your computer, you can go through different tools like Anchor, and you can record it right from your phone.
Yeah,
it's not that hard. I think that the biggest tip that I'd like to have is that you want to have at least 3 episodes ready to go. So one of the episodes can be a trailer.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Katie Brinkley, and this is Rocky Mountain Marketing. You're going to be listening to da-da-da-da. This is what I talk about. This is a little bit about me. That can be one episode. It doesn't need to be...
Who you are, what your show's about, and why people should listen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that can be one episode. The next 2, again, they can be just solo episodes, or if you have a guest in mind, you can have them in there. But have those 3 ready to go when you start your podcast. And honestly, that's what sets you up for success, because you're never scrambling to stay consistent.
Yeah. So I agree with the tech piece, because I mean, if you listen to my Girl Means Business podcast, you've heard me say this. I recorded my first couple of episodes on my iPhone in the Notes app using my Apple plug into my phone, microphone, headphones. Like I didn't even have AirPods at the time. It was just, that's all I did. I was sitting in my bedroom closet recording. And then I finally
I want them to know why you were in the closet. It wasn't because of...
No, it wasn't.
Like trying to hide from the kids.
No. I mean, that was part of it. But no, like, so when you record, you want to record in a space that's going to be unlike where we are right now, in a big, giant open room with lots of noise. So the closet is nice because all your clothes absorb the sound. So I would go in there, and the first time I recorded, it took me, I think, like an hour and a half. Because I kept overthinking the content and overthinking the editing. I would stop and re-record pieces. But I sat on the floor of my closet where I could close the door. It was a small room. It was kind of insulated by the clothing, and I recorded. Now, one of the things I would say my tip would be besides that is don't try to make it perfect.
No.
Think about what you like to listen to. One of the things I hear a lot is people say now, like, I don't want the overly polished, overly produced, I mean, there are some cases where that's really necessary, but have background noise. Like I've had episodes where like my kids come running in the room and say something, or the dog barks, or the doorbell rings, or whatever. And I've never had somebody complain and be like, oh, I'm gonna stop listening to your show because your dog barked in that one episode. Like, okay, if that's the reason you leave, then bye. Yeah. But it doesn't have to be perfect.
Well, and that's the thing. Like back to what I was saying before, the voice is so authentic.
Yeah.
And if you are overpolished, I do think that not to say that you shouldn't have an editor or anything, but I mean, like, if you are overpolished, it definitely makes it feel maybe not quite as, authentic as it could be.
Right.
And I definitely feel like when I listen to those episodes where someone does have the ahs and the ums, and then there's the awkward pauses. Like that.
Yeah.
That's what makes people want to stay tuned. And you're building that know, like, and trust factor, and you feel like you're listening to a friend.
Yes. And that's the key is, like, you want people to listen to your podcast and feel like they're in the room with you. And I remember when I first started listening to podcasts as a consumer, there were certain ones I listened to and I was like, I feel like they're reading from a script.
Yeah.
There's no emotion. There's no any of that. And I listened to one, and it was a very like highly produced celebrity podcast, and they were recording from like their dining room table. And I remember them saying, like, it was right during when COVID, they're like, we don't have all of our equipment. We're just going to record from our, headphones and stuff. And like, it didn't stop me from listening. In fact, it made me want to listen more. I'm like, here's these people who have access and money to buy the best quality stuff, and they're recording on their AirPods.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love that. It makes it feel more relatable.
Yeah.
So be relatable. Now, obviously, you need it to match your brand. If your brand is going to be very professional, and if you're an attorney and you're doing a legal podcast, then you might want to make it a little bit more polished. Yeah. But for the most part, just get started. That would be my biggest, is just get started. Because if you keep waiting until you have the right equipment, the right timing, the right whatever, you're going to wait forever and you're never going to actually start.
Yeah. And I think that too, people, another big hurdle that I hear a lot of people have is that I don't know what I'm going to say. Like, I don't know how I could have enough episodes. And just for the record, the average podcast length, like lifetime, is 6 episodes. And that's heartbreaking. I do think that's where if you have those 3 episodes already made, started, that you're always in advance, and so you can never, there's no excuses to fall behind.
Well, real quick, I want to throw a stat. So I was in a room today where they were talking about consistency and promoting your podcast and being consistent with creating your content, and it was on Apple Podcasts. There are over 2 million podcasts listed, but the only 500,000 of those are actually active podcasts.
Yeah.
So when people throw out the number, there's 2 million podcasts out there. Well, yeah, there are 2 million listed.
Yeah.
But there's a fraction of that is actually people who have consistently put out content.
Yes. And then I think was I in the same room as you? I mean, didn't even realize it.
May have been.
I mean, like, there's so many people here at PodFest. It's incredible. And then of that 500,000, only I think 143,000 had a new episode within the last 7 days.
Oh, I don't remember seeing that, but yeah, that's interesting too.
So I mean, like, but that's where, like, it comes into monthly podcasts and daily podcasts. You know, but I mean, that's something to consider. So know what your consistent strategy, what you're capable of being consistent in this too, because, you know, it's the same with social media. And you and I talk about this a lot. You know, everyone has a different amount of consistency that they can stick with. If for social media, for me, it is 3 posts a week. That's all I have time for, you know, and 1 reel a week. That's all I have time for. But know what you are capable of staying consistent with. So if you're like, you know what, I really want to have a podcast. I don't know if I could do a weekly. I don't know if I could do that's fine. Then do every other week or do a monthly. But just try and create a schedule that you can remain consistent with, because if you stop, your listeners are going to stop tuning in. You have to build that routine for your listeners as well.
Well, and it's just like with our podcast, you know, with this Business Besties, it's not sustainable for us to sit down and go, we're going to create something in addition to what we're already doing every single week, which is why we do them once a month.
Yeah.
And who knows what the future will hold. You can always pivot. That's the other thing, is you can always pivot. Like how my podcast looks now, 170 something episodes in, is not what it looked like on episode 5. Yeah. It's just not. Same thing again. Same thing with social media. But I want to talk for a minute about the content piece you brought up.
Yeah.
I do think that is something that people get stuck on. And I want you to think about, one, if podcasting is right for you. Because for me, it was a matter of, I don't like to blog. I'm not a natural writer. And so for me to put all of my thoughts and ideas on paper just wasn't me. But I can sit here and talk to you all day long. And I can talk to strangers all day long. I mean, we've seen it walking around here. We just randomly start talking to people.
Hence my voice.
Yeah, exactly. But that's why podcasting felt like a natural fit for me. Now, you may be listening to this, you may be thinking, I would rather write my thoughts out and put it on a blog, or I would rather post, videos on YouTube. That's totally fine. But if you feel like podcasting is something that you could get into, I don't want the content piece to be what stops you either. Go back and look at all the content you've already created for your business, whether that is social media posts, blog posts, video content on your website.
Girl, I was just going to say your website. I mean, think about your basic website. Typically there's 4 tabs.
Yeah.
Each of those tabs could be an episode.
Well, and if one of those tabs is frequently asked questions, you probably have even more than that content.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think about like photographers. Again, I know I bring these up a lot, but that's the world I came from. And so I was helping a photographer create her new website for a while, and I was doing her frequently asked questions. She had about 8 questions on her frequently. That's 8 different episodes of content. Mm-hmm. And they don't have to be half-hour episodes. They can be 10-minute bites. They can be 15-minute bites.
That's a great point, too. And I think that, for me, my podcast is around 26 to 32 minutes, Rocky Mountain Marketing. And I know that Girl Means Business typically runs around 40 minutes episodes. But the reason that we have the episode links that we do is that's the average amount of time for the average commuter.
Yeah.
So I mean, keep that in mind. And if you're like, I don't really want to listen to a 30-minute podcast, you could do a 15-minute podcast or a 10-minute podcast. Yeah. Somebody will have 10 minutes from there. I mean, think about it. If they find a 10-minute podcast, that's how long it typically takes to sit in the line at Starbucks.
Yes. Or sitting in car line to pick up your kids from school or whatever, Well, and I think there's a place This is where you get to know your audience too. There's a place for each type. There are some podcasts I listen to that are hour and a half, 2 hour podcasts.
Oh, man.
Now, I don't listen to them all at one time, but the content is good enough that I'm willing to listen to 30 minutes here, 20 minutes there. Sometimes I'll be in a long drive in the car and I'll have more time, or doing things around the house. I can pop my earbuds in and listen. But if I want to just get a quick bit of information, I do look for those ones that are around 20 minutes, because sometimes I feel like 10 is too quick. I'm like, there's not a whole lot of value there, but 15 to 20 is usually pretty good. But know your audience. If your audience are busy moms, busy entrepreneurs, busy corporate people, like they may not have 45 minutes. Or maybe your audience are people who spend a lot of time in their car. You know, like if your audience is realtors and they are in their car a lot, they might be able to listen to a 45-minute episode and be fine with that. So know your audience and kind of figure out like what is a good, and then test these things out. Do a couple episodes that are 10 minutes, do a couple that are 30 minutes, and then see what your audience listens to the most, and then continue with that. So do some testing. Again, it doesn't have to be day one you have it all figured out. Yeah. See what your audience responds to, which content they like, how long they like, and then do more of those things.
Exactly. Well, and so I think that, we've overcome the thought of needing to have all the equipment.
Right.
We've overcome, thinking that it needs to be an hour long, what works for you. We've overcome, how do we come up with the content? What other tips would you recommend for somebody that's like, all right, maybe I'll start a podcast, maybe Kendra?
I would say practice. I would say just get you a microphone or your earpods or whatever, and just start by opening the notes app on your phone and just get comfortable listening to yourself talk. Because I do think that is something that, we like to overthink our process. And the more we hear our voice, the more we hear ourselves talk to ourselves, because it's essentially what you're doing. You're sitting there talking, unless you're right now, this is rare. You're talking to yourself into a microphone, which is uncomfortable in the beginning. So get used to it. And then, like I said, just start creating a library of content that you can then put out into the world.
Yeah. And I think that too, like I've said before, I come from radio. It was uncomfortable for me just to sit and talk for 15 minutes straight to myself.
Yeah.
So think about the format of the show. Do you want to do interviews? Do you want to have a co-host? Are you comfortable, talking by yourself for 10 minutes? Figure out the format of your show that you'd like to do and just create that list. And when I'm making my episodes, I always, whether it's solo, whether it's with a co-host or whether it's with a guest, I want to have 3 key takeaways for the listener from every single episode. And so before every episode, I write them down okay, takeaway 1 is blank. Takeaway 2 is, blank.
Yeah.
So that way I make sure as the conversation flows, I make sure I hit those 3 talking points. And it does give me a little bit of an outline, a little bit of a way to stay on track. Otherwise, I could just end up derailing and talking about platypus or something.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, I agree. And the more prepared, and it depends on your personality style too, know what you're capable of doing. But I think having an outline, you don't have to script it out unless you plan on being a scripted show. But I wouldn't.
No, I mean,
that's double the work.
No, and like I said, that doesn't even need to be an outline. 3 key takeaways from this episode. And I mean, honestly, it makes it easier for when you upload it. The 3 key takeaways, which will let them know this episode.
Well, and one last thing I'll say too is that we covered the tech of the microphone and all the GarageBand, that kind of stuff. But don't even worry about the computer tech of where do I upload it? How do I get it here? Just start recording content, and then once you have the content, then you can ask questions or go online and find somebody to help you figure out how to get it onto the internet and out there for the world to see.
Yeah, exactly. And, there's a number of different hosting platforms out there. As you can, for those of you that are watching us on YouTube, you can see we are sitting at the Libsyn booth.
Point in the right direction. This is why I should not be Vanna White. I don't even know where I'm pointing it behind me.
There we go. We're whether it be Libsyn or Spreaker or Buzzsprout or Anchor. There's a number of hosting platforms out there. And let us know. Reach out to us. We're on social media. Connect with us.
Yep.
Happy to answer any questions about podcasting, because I really think that with a podcast, some of the biggest things that it's helped me with is my confidence. It's helped me make some amazing connections.
Yeah,
yourself
absolutely.
included. And it's given me a lot more opportunities because I speak on a regular basis about things that I know. And like I said, it comes with the confidence. But I mean, the more you talk about something, it's like, yeah, I know what I'm talking about here. I'm happy to lend my expertise to this. So I think it's given me more opportunities. And I think that with podcasting, regardless of what your goal is, it's going to open up a whole new world.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And I've said this when it comes to like reels and video content, kind of like what you just said. You don't have to have it all figured out, and you don't have to have the confidence going into it. That will come with time, and be okay with being a beginner at this.
Yes.
And just know, I mean, how many episodes in are you on your Rocky Mountain marketing line?
I'm over 115 episodes, I think,
okay.
right now. Yeah.
So if you were to go back and listen to episode 1.
Oh my God, nobody listen to episode 1, please. Nobody listen.
I don't even think episode 1 of my podcast exists anymore on the internet. I think it's been archived. But
oh man.
Like, I mean, I went back one time and listened, and it's cringeworthy.
Yeah.
But if you don't ever jump in and do the cringeworthy stuff, then you don't ever grow to to where we are. I mean, we still have way more growth to have, but we're on this journey, and we couldn't have gotten to where we are now if we didn't start with the cringeworthy stuff at the beginning. So be willing to embrace being new at something, learning as you go, asking questions, reaching out to Katie and I, or anyone else you know that has a podcast, or even like just see if you can be a guest on a podcast and see how somebody else does the guesting part, and ask them questions, be okay with being a student of something for a while.
Well, and I think that, Kendra, too, I know we're going to wrap this up here, but that is one of the biggest things is that I have learned from the podcasting community. That's what we are. We are a community.
It is, yeah.
And there's no competition. I mean, what a perfect shirt for me to be wearing for this episode.
I know. Collaboration over competition.
Yeah. I'm wearing my shirt. I had this shirt made. Collaboration over competition. And that is exactly what I have found with the podcasting community. There's enough room for all of us to succeed. There's enough help for, one thing that might work for me could help elevate somebody else. Mm-hmm. And so, it's a great community to be a part of.
Yeah. And it's a great way to help your business reach a larger audience, to set up yourself as an expert in your area. I mean, there's so many key things about it. Again, this is not something that I'm saying everybody needs to have in their business, but if it's something you've been thinking about, something that you have wondered about, or you think you might enjoy doing, it's one of my favorite parts of my business. Yeah, it really is.
I know.
And if that's something that you're, hopefully this episode has helped give you a little bit of energy and boost behind that, giving you some tips, just know that we've been here, a full 2 days now.
Yep.
And it's been so much fun to meet all these other people who are like the ones standing right in front of us right now, like watching us do this.
Yeah.
Like people that I would never have met in real life or had a reason to meet if it wasn't for this community that we have around us. So yeah, it's been amazing.
And biggest number one takeaway from today's episode, just start.
Just start. Just do the damn thing.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. As always, I'd love to hear from you. You can visit my website at www.nextstepsocialcommunications.com, connect with me on LinkedIn, or check me out on Instagram. Let's keep taking your marketing to new heights.